Good evening from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, Bole International Airport. I want to take this opportunity to continue to fly the 777-300ER, which has been out for 2 weeks now, and I've really been enjoying it, and I hope you've been enjoying it too. And if you're on the fence about it, I highly recommend getting it. Bole International Airport is actually a pretty good 777 and 737 hub for those of you who like to exclusively fly PMDG, like myself. But also, as you know, Inibuilds will be releasing an A350 very soon, and Ethiopian is including the A350 in their fleets. So for those of you who are Airbus lovers, this airport also offers opportunities to perform this kind of flights. Ethiopian has a very mixed strategy with this wide-body aircraft. When I visited the country, I had 777, for example. Let me give you an example. I had a 777-200 LR flight from Addis Ababa to Kilimanjaro, a very short 1.5 hour type flight. So you can use these big airplanes that are designed for long haul for some short to medium haul routes out of here. Ethiopian will probably just decide whether to use a 737 fleet. They have NGs and MAX 737s for these kind of flights. But if it's maybe a higher season, they'll probably go with wide bodies. In some cases, like in my experience flying in and out of Addis Ababa a few times last year, I was flying on empty wide bodies, virtually empty wide bodies for some very short intra-African routes. I'm going to be taking the 300ER over to Ghana, so we're essentially going to be crossing Central Africa from east to west. It's almost a due west flight. We're going to Accra. Now, one thing that caught my attention a while back is that nobody has done Bole Airport on the payward scenery side. And again, for those of you who are PMDG, why would people ignore an airport where you can fly 737s and 777s just about anywhere, considering how big Ethiopian Airlines is? Well, somebody who goes by Victor69 did a freeware, which I downloaded from nl.flightsim.to. So I was able to download this package, and again, let me stress, this is freeware, and look how impressive it is. I've been to this airport, so I can attest this is a very realistic depiction of the airport. So again, there's plenty of possibilities to make the most out of your 777 and 737 flights around the world. So we are loading up for Ghana, for Accra. I'm just gonna finish some checks here, some preparations as well, going through some flows, and you can hear the passengers boarding using the GSX application. So let me go ahead, and I'm just gonna go to my FMC pages and pull up the tablet here, and I'm also gonna freeze my camera, and we'll go through our preps. We should have a pretty nice evening departure here out of Bole. And Bole also offers an opportunity for 777 high altitude performance, because Bole is over 7,000 feet above sea level. Once we get the altimeter, we'll know exactly. I'll tell you exactly how high Bole is. Okay, so we're gonna get our flight plan. So look at this number here. Today is the second week since the release. 2 weeks exactly it was released, and I already have 25 flights under my belt because of the number of flight plans. Well, this is gonna be my 25th flight. So yeah, I've been using this twice a day on average. Really enjoying the airplane. I have no complaints. I mean, PMDG is by far my favorite developer. I mentioned that I have an open mind, but it's really hard to find anybody to match them. My setup, including my hardware, is a Boeing TCA yoke, so I don't have no kind of a side stick setup for Airbus type flights. So yeah, my setup is truly Boeing. I have Boeing throttles and Boeing yokes. So that's why I mainly fly the 737 and 777 as well. Besides being, again, a huge fan of PMDG, a customer since 2003, going back to their very first 737 product, because they never disappoint me. They always wind up with some incredible products.
Welcome on board. board. This way, please. May I see your boarding pass, please? This way, please. This way, please. This way, please. Harrow.
The tablet is telling me I have a weight limit.
Harrow.
Let me see this one more time. It wants it to be at 636 pounds, and right now I'm at 641 pounds. The tablet is probably taking the, oh, okay, not probably, the tablet is taking the high altitude into account, because we're not necessarily doing a very long flight. But let's see, if I were to put flaps 20 full power, I can get this on my FMC, and this is, yeah, this is plenty of room for the 300 ER.
Harrow.
I'm gonna go with the FMC recommendation.
Good evening.
That is plenty of room. We got plenty of power. We have a very long runway designed for this kind of altitude.
Harrow.
Runway 25 left is 12,467 feet, so yeah, there'll be no concerns. We can go with a full payload, and the actual distance to Accra is 2,300 nautical miles, more or less, 2343. We're looking at a 5-hour flight.
This way.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Central Africa is compared to the US. I'm in the US, so I'm used to some very strong winds from the west. But here, I think in the equator, these winds are more variable, so we might not necessarily have a headwind. I can look at the forecast as well, but again, I'm gonna estimate about 5 hours of flight time. So we're gonna go ahead and finish up the preps here. Let's get rid of the tablet, or let's just go back to our regular view. We put the tablet back in its place.
Harrow. Harrow. This way, please. May I see your boarding pass, please?
Let's put tickets on standby.
May I see your boarding pass, please? Good evening. Harrow. Welcome on board. May I see your boarding pass, please? Harrow.
initial contact, you have information Zulu. Boli Airport information Zulu. 1537 Zulu. Wind 220 at tree few clouds at 2500. Temperature 19er. Dew point 13. QNH 1024. Landing and departing runway 07 right. Transition level 140. Bird activity in vicinity of airport. Advise on initial contact, you have information Zulu. Boli Airport information Zulu. 1537 Zulu. Wind 220 at tree.
Good evening.
Okay, so we have a new runway 7 right. When I was in Bole, every one of my flights took off on 7 right. I found it kind of odd that we're using 25 left. The wind is not that strong today, so I think the 7 runways are the preferred for departures and takeoffs. So we're going to go ahead with that.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy. Request IFR clearance to Kotoka Airport.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, board delivery, expect runway 07 right, USUP 1 Alpha departure. Squawk 1166.
Haro.
USUP 1 Alpha departure. Squawk 1166, Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
Welcome on board.
Ethiopian
Okay, so let's update our data.
773 Heavy, read back, correct. Contact ground 121, decimal 9er when ready for pushback or engine start.
Ground 121 decimal 9er when ready, Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
Good evening. This way, please. This way, please. May I see your boarding pass, please? Good evening. Welcome on board. May I see your boarding pass? Haro. Haro.
We'll be initially going to flight level 320 and we'll have a step climb shortly after reaching cruise, and that'll be our final altitude, flight level 340.
Haro. Welcome on board. Good evening. This way, please. Arrow. Good evening. Good evening.
Okay, we have a brake source. We're gonna set our parking brake. And we should just be loading the last few passengers. If GSX lingers, I'll just go ahead and reset it and we'll push back.
This way, please. Good evening. Arrow. May I see your boarding pass, please? Harrow. Good evening. This way, please. This way, please. Arrow. Arrow. This way, please. Harrow. Good evening. This way, please. Welcome on board.
Okay, we are pretty much all set to go. Just gonna I'm gonna go ahead and reset GSX so we can get going quicker. I know we have a full airplane and I think the GSX boarding is gonna take a lot longer. I thought I had timed it just right, but it was quicker to set up the plane. So let's go ahead and reset. Close the door and prepare for pushback.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy at stand 14. Request pushback and engine start.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy Bull Ground, pushback approved. Face west.
Pushback and engine start approved. Face west. Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Our start sequence will be right engine, then left engine. Let's go ahead and arm the doors.
Departure checks completed. Bypass pin inserted. Lock in gear. Parking brakes, please. Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will. Set parking brakes. Unlocking gear. Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed. Left is clear, right is clear.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, request taxi to the active.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, runway 07 right. Taxi at pilot's discretion.
Runway 07 right, taxi my discretion, Ethiopian 773 heavy.
Ethiopian 773 heavy. Contact Bull Tower 118.1.
Over to Tower 118.1, Ethiopian 773 heavy. Ethiopian 773 Heavy, ready to go. Runway 07 right.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, Bold Tower, wind 220 at tree, runway 07 right, cleared for takeoff.
Runway 07 right, cleared for takeoff. Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
Okay, let's get going. Check.
B1 rotate. Positive rate of climb.
Gear up.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, reset transponder, squawk 1166.
Squawk 1166, Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
I keep forgetting that the auto tune on Beyond ATC works for everything except the transponder, so I gotta remember to set the transponder myself.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, contact bold departure 119.7.
Flaps 5.
Contact bold departure 119.7, Ethiopian 773 Heavy. Bole, Ethiopian 773 Heavy, good evening, 10,300 feet.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, bold departure identified, climb to flight level 170.
Climb to flight level 170, Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
flaps 1.
Traffic. Traffic.
Transition level.
Ethiopian
Flight number
773
140.
Heavy. Contact Addis Ababa radar 125.1. Bye bye.
Flaps up.
Contact Addis Ababa radar 125.1. Ethiopian 773 Heavy. Addis Ababa radar, Ethiopian 773 Heavy. Climbing flight level 142 for flight level 170.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, Addis Ababa radar, radar contact, climb to flight level 340.
Climb to flight level 340, Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
Okay, since we do, well, let me see. I think we can go to step time is in 138 nautical miles. You know what? I'm just gonna go to 340 now. I was gonna request to maintain 320 for a few minutes before the step climb, but we'll just do it now. And we are at 10,000 feet above the ground already, so we'll turn our lights off. Okay, checked. Okay, autopilot on. So it will be another 4 hours 40 minutes of flight time before Accra. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video here, and once we are into our descent, we'll continue. So we'll see you then. Okay, back in the flight deck, on descent. 4 hours and 38 minutes since we left Addis Ababa. The flight has been pretty uneventful. We are running along the equator, so we did run into some thunderstorms on the way here, but we were also very high above them. But they did result in the weather radar giving some good returns. And the local time here is 4 minutes until 10 p.m. local time. I had my speed brakes out and I'm on LNAV, VNAV, but I still might need to make a brief hold over Akbul to get low and slow enough to line up on final.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, contact Accra, approach 119.5.
Contact Accra, approach 119.5, Ethiopian 773 Heavy. Accra, Ethiopian 773 Heavy, flight level 163.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, Accra approach. QNH 1011, expect radar vectors for ILS runway 21.
QNH 1011, expect radar vectors for ILS runway 21, Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, descend to flight level 050.
Descend to flight level 050, Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
Okay, so we're gonna do at least one turn on this hold, and that should get us low and slow enough.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, leave Agbo heading 295, expect radar vectors for ILS runway 21.
Leave Akbul heading 295. Expect radar vectors for ILS runway 21. Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, turn right, heading 285, vectors for the approach.
Turn right, heading 285, Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
This is the first time I'm seeing SimBrief flight plan fully incorporated into the aircraft, but you get an insufficient fuel warning.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, 10 miles from Shade to 1, turn left, heading 245, maintain 2,000 feet until established on the final approach course. Cleared ILS runway 21.
Turn left, heading 245, 2,000 feet until established. Cleared ILS runway 21, Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
Okay, now the fuel warning is gone. I was gonna say, during the whole trip we've had pretty much tailwind and nothing to really slow us down so as to cause a fuel warning. And again, everything was based on what SimBrief calculated, so I copied that data over. And I wanted to make sure it wasn't raining in Accra before doing the landing calculation, which it's not raining, so we'll use runway 21 as planned. Flaps 25. That will give us a 162 VREF. Flaps 1.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, established on final approach.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, affirmative.
Flaps 5. Gear down. Flaps 15. Flaps 20. Flaps 25. Landing checklist complete.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, contact Accra Tower 118.6.
Manual flight.
Over to Tower 118.6, Ethiopian 773 Heavy. Accra Tower, Ethiopian 773 Heavy, ILS, runway 21.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, Accra Tower, wind 1905 at 15, runway 21 cleared to land.
Runway 21 cleared to land, Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
Continue. Landing.
400.
Wide slope. Wide slope. Wide slope. Wide slope. Wide slope. Wide slope.
50. 30. 20. 10.
Speed break up. Reverse normal. Manual braking. $60 knots.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, exit right at Alpha.
Exit right at Alpha, Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, contact ground 121.9er.
Ground 121.9er, Ethiopian 773 Heavy. Ethiopian 773 Heavy, request taxi to the gate.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, welcome to Kotoka Airport. Say parking or advise if need assignment.
Request gate Charlie 6, Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
Ethiopian 773 Heavy, gate Charlie 6 taxi via Alpha.
Gate Charlie 6 taxi via Alpha, Ethiopian 773 Heavy.
Cabin crew, disarm doors. Okay, chocks connected, brakes off. Hydraulic panel set. Secure checklist complete. Okay, so we made it to Accra. Might have been about 4 hours, 57 minutes from Addis Ababa. So we'll be signing off here from Accra. Thank you as always for watching, and we'll see you on the 777 again very, very soon. Take care.